How are we all doing out there tonight? Good. Can everybody hear me, first of all? Yeah. Okay. Very well? Not very well. Maybe I should just yell a little louder? That's good. Okay. So, now everybody can hear me, correct? How's that? There we go. Much better. Thank you, David. Appreciate that. Just want to start things off this evening, first of all, by extending a very hearty and very heartfelt thank you. I want to thank everyone here tonight for your patronage of the Kittery Historical Naval Museum. And thank you for taking the time out of your busy lives to come on down here to hear a little talk about Kittery's favorite son, America's greatest woodcarver. Of course, I speak of none other than the immortal John Haley Bellamy. I won't take up too much of your time tonight, about 40, 45 minutes or so. Also, I should go ahead and, before we kill all the lights. Sorry. All right. I do have to mention, two gentlemen in this room really need to be recognized. Back in January of 2008, I began my research into John Haley Bellamy. And I had no idea it would take me this long. And I find out so much. But there were two men that from the very beginning were very, very supportive of me. They showed true kindness to a stranger. And they're in this room. They would be none other than your curator, Wayne Manson. And your newest member, Mr. Dave Kosolaskis. I have to say, your museum is a real rare gem. I've dealt with a lot of museums, large and small, across America, and also a few over in Europe. And yours is a real quart and a pint can. I can't believe how much stuff you stuff in there. and you have so many superlative pieces that you wouldn't expect to find in a little local yokel historical. And in the very beginning, these two gentlemen, they kind of took my research and made it their own. They really welcomed me, brought me in, introduced me to a lot of local characters here in town. We're also in this room, such as great woodcarver Michael Dow in the back, and Dr. Richard Candy from over at Discover Portsmouth and Portsmouth Historical. And I've really made tonight a reality. My story in brief, that started in 2008 researching the life and art of John Haley Bellamy. Tonight I'm going to be sharing with you some of my new findings on the man and his life and art. All of this was done in preparation for a book which will be debuting next month in April. April 4th to be exact, over at Discover Portsmouth. It is going to be the first definitive biography to appear on Bellamy in over 30 years. It's going to address a lot of questions that we had after the last book came out on Bellamy back in 1982. The book itself is being published right across the river at Discover Portsmouth, at the Portsmouth Marine Society to be exact. Over 200 pages, full color illustrations. And as fate would have it, we have a lovely young lady at the back of the room, standing up, right behind that camera. And she is taking pre-orders for those who may wish to pre-order the book before it comes out. So if you want to be the first kid on your block to have that new book that everyone's going to be talking about this summer, be sure to go and pay a visit at the back room after the talk to that lovely lady, who happens to be my wife, too. So she'll invite you, I promise. And also, if you like what you're about to see here tonight, if you like these sculptures, as fate would have it, we're having the largest exhibition ever of Bellamy's artwork. It's going to be happening, again, right over the river in Portsmouth at the Discover Portsmouth Center, the old city library. It's going to have well over 100 pieces. We're having everything from Bellamy's earliest works, his first documented wood carving, all the way up to his very last wood carving as we documented in 1912. So it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, a chance to really go ahead and see a lot of pieces that are being culled from private and public collections all across the country. So I definitely invite you to check it out. And before we begin, just out of curiosity, how many folks here have ever carved a Bellamy's eagle? Come on, sir, show those hands up high, gentlemen. We've got a bunch. Okay, excellent. Just want to make sure what kind of crowd I was dealing with here tonight. there are at least half a dozen or more. Okay, well, without further ado, shall we begin? Excellent. We can just kill those lights now? Okay. Here we go. Let's reach. To begin, John Haley Bellamy. Our hero's story begins on April 16th in the year 1836, right here in Kittery, particularly in the Kittery Point neighborhood. John here had the good fortune to be born into a household that enjoyed a large degree of wealth and prosperity in 19th century Kittery. His mom, Frances Keene Bellamy, or Fanny as she was known to family and friends, was typical of the time that she was a homemaker. Together, she and her husband Charles would bring into this world no less than 10, yes, count them 10 children, of which their firstborn was John Haley Bellamy. Did I mention this was a prosperous family? As far as the wealth, it comes from this gentleman right here. This is the Honorable Charles Garrish Bellamy, John's dad. Charles here was a major force in 19th century Maine politics. He held a large number of offices at both the local and state level. The apex of his career was when he came within one vote of gaining the Democratic nomination to run for U.S. Senate right here in Maine. So he's a rather powerful, connected, wealthy individual, if you will. John, along with all his brothers and sisters and his parents, gets to grow up in this house right here in Kittery Point. I think we all recognize this home. Anybody want to take a wild guess what we're looking at? Of course. This is the Pepperell House, right across the street from Frisbee's Market. This is the home that would actually play quite a decisive role in setting Bellamy along the path of becoming a great woodcarver. First of all, is what's going on inside the house. Every room is replete with beautiful wood carvings, like you see here. Room after room filled with beautiful shell cupboards, or you have all this beautiful paneling here, chamber after chamber, stretching from floor to ceiling. And then, of course, there's also the beautiful grand central staircase and front hall, which as late as the 1920s, architects were going into to measure and photograph so they could replicate this design in buildings that they were constructing at the time. So you can imagine the effect of a little boy like Bellamy growing up in a household full of all this wood carving that would have on his artistic sensibilities and his sense of aesthetic. But infinitely more important than anything going on inside the house is what's going on outside the house. Of course, hop, skip, and a jump down the road from Bellamy's house is the Portsmouth Navy Yard, which we all know is really here in Kittery. Everybody's life in Kittery back then centers around the sea. If it's not coastal shipping and commercial shipbuilding, everybody is working down at the Navy Yard. So Bellamy's growing up in a town that is stuffed to the gills with all kinds of carpenters and boat builders and decorative ship carvers. So it's no surprise that he himself would gravitate towards and eventually go into this line of work. We know Bellamy in his early teens had already decided upon a career as a woodcarver. And for a long time we used to think that the gentleman who trained him was a fellow by the name of Laban Beecher. Now, Laban Beecher was a woodcarver of some note in the 19th century. He worked at the Portsmouth Navy Yard for a while, seems to have been a friend of Bellamy's father. And we know that Bellamy was familiar with Beecher's handiwork because this eagle right here, carved by Beecher, used to live, of all places, right above one of the outside doors to the Pepperell Mansion. So with all this evidence in hand, scholars for a long time said, oh, of course, Beecher must have been the fellow who trained Bellamy. Well, buckle your seatbelts, because that's not true. The fact is, Bellamy probably never even met Beecher. If he did, it was only in passing as a little boy. Beecher didn't teach Bellamy anything about woodcarving. So we're left with the question, who did? Well, there are two men that share the honor. The first is this guy, John's dad. Long before Charles Garrish Bellamy ever went into politics, he actually was a master woodcarver. He had studied civil architecture and engineering down in Boston.